I'm Alex, and welcome to MindLifeWeekly. If you're new to this channel, feel free to subscribe for simple psychology for life. Today, in our second part of this two-part series, you will learn how to use the criticism of others to your advantage. Now, let's begin. How to use the criticisms of others to your advantage. The criticism of others can do you good. Yes, you heard me right. It does you more good than bad. Regardless, we have come to believe that it is of harm to us. But the question is, how does it benefit you? By breaking your ego. That sounds terrible, but it is what it is. A lot of us have falsely aligned ourselves with our egos. So much so that we have come to believe that our egos are not just a part of us, but it's who we are. However, as we continue to comprehend, this is far from being true. The tearing down of your ego is beneficial to you. The criticism of others suspends your barriers, ego, and false self-esteem. It liberates you from living in the dark, allowing you to be your most authentic version as you step into the light. You cherish their critiques because you live with the certainty that the critics are finding fault in the weaker and deceptive version of you, your ego. This weak link will soon be broken, setting you free from its tangles. Your false ego has had many far outreaching effects on you. It has made you live up to the expectations of others, which is the most exhausting way to live. It is impossible to oblige everyone all the time, but when you're living in a false shell, you will still try to give them what they're asking. It will damage the true you because you will fall flat to any form of disapproval. This sense of obedience for their validation gives you a false sense of self-worth of any person living in their own version of a shell that approves. Cognitive dissonance. Living in a fragile shell makes you feel vulnerable to not just personal attacks of similar people, but your own assault directed at yourself. It happens when you enter a state of cognitive dissonance. Especially when you align your identity with an outer base layer, you can't connect with your inner self as you are caught up in portraying a false, superficial picture of you. The exterior you project is hollow as you try to live up to these falsely set standards. These expectations are just a confident outlook and are not a real reflection of the real you. This process creates a lot of anxiety in you when it is off key. In other words, it creates emotional disharmony. Let's have an example to comprehend better. If you are listening to music in which all the musicians are in coordination with one another, that would be a euphoric experience for you. Whereas if the music is out of rhythm or off key, then it wouldn't be a pleasant experience. It is dissonant. It is weird that once we let go of our dissonance and recognize who we genuinely are, we become fearless of others' criticism. We feel liberated from the shell and happily accept who we are. We finally start living in peace. The state of anxiety begins to fade away. We finally feel satisfied with ourselves and stop seeking the approval of others with that shell. The more we liberate ourselves, the less we will care about seeking others' admiration or support. However, if we re-enter the chain of seeking their validation, we will lose control of ourselves and give the false shell the power to reassemble. Given enough time, we will start feeling the disconnect between our inner and outer selves again. Freeing yourself from the shell allows the authentic you to enter the world with your full potential, which will lead you to be out in the open and shine. You will showcase your capability that always got tied behind the fragile walls of your shell. Opportunities will come your way as a byproduct of the efforts you've put in to reach your full credibility by putting down the false ego. The shell was always an outlook that asked for the appreciation of others and fell short to their criticism. As the shell cracks and falls apart, it eventually crumbles away as we genuinely identify and align with our true selves. We feel strongly, feeling rooted in our core and magnetic to others. It's power that feels authentic, which translates to being charismatic. This brings happiness and a charm to others because the impact isn't something we could have ever conceived. We feel overwhelmed by its positive force as we become part of the change. A change to make the world a better place to live and thrive. A genuine sense of self-esteem. So how do you pull yourself together? How do you work on genuinely building self-worth? How do you separate yourself from the shell and keep the real you closely aligned to your identity? A shell stopped you from recognizing your happiness, success, and peace. Well, you can follow a few simple steps. Firstly, embrace that your ego wasn't the truth. It is something that has been shaped by all the falsehood that allowed your false consciousness to believe the shell was the real you. It distanced you from it. But with this realization, there is nothing that can stop you from bursting through this shell. In the process of healing and reversing to your authentic self, fully embrace yourself and accept who you are. Self-esteem plays a deciding role in our life choices. We calculate our strengths based upon our capabilities to set our targets in life and lay down a foundation of fundamentals. A person with sufficient self-esteem would recognize their inner potential and start setting their path. Self-esteem allows one to accept themselves fully with their strengths, weaknesses, and vulnerabilities. A breakthrough point for a person with adequate self-esteem would be they acknowledge and accept their mistakes with constructive analysis. At the same time, a person with low self-esteem would take what's on the outer and conclude their mistake as loss and ultimately feel defeated. Drawing conclusions when feeling low would make any defeat feel more painful, and the barrier would appear impossible to overcome. The crushing setback would become their misery, with a seemingly unmovable obstacle in their path of reaching great heights. However, when seeking the light, developing sufficient self-esteem can redirect this approach onto a path of success. Barriers can be broken when the core of your self-esteem is resilient. You may have a different perspective on this, but I do hope you have learned and identified what the true meaning of self-esteem actually is. Okay, that's about it from me, and this concludes this 2-part video series on self-esteem. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and comment with your thoughts below. As always, thank you for watching Mind Life Weekly. Give us a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe, because more fresh and exciting content is on the way.